Bonjour. Aujourd'hui, je suis ici avec mon co-chef, Jonathan Pedneault, avec une conférence de presse au sujet de les défis actuellement ici au Canada. We have been, as a country, and to put it mildly, we've faced unprecedented challenges since the election of Donald Trump in November, and more recently since his inauguration, January 20th. I want to share with Canadians how much being able to say we are Team Canada, being able to ride on the strength of the Canadian people standing up, grabbing a flag and waving it, and saying we are united, has given us a strategic advantage that Donald Trump never imagined we'd have. I can share that the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has engaged with, and people have seen this, not only all the premiers, but all the opposition party leaders a number of times since the U.S. election when Trump began to talk about 25% tariffs on Canadian exports to the United States. An unjustified threat that violates a number of existing trade agreements. Worse than that, we now know that Trump continues to express an interest in taking our territory, just as he does about, as in his speech to Congress the other night, Greenland will get it one way or the other. These are illegal threats. But Canada has stood fast, we've stood firm, and we've been united. So I want to share again, I think it's been a big part of our success in pushing back on Trump, that December 3rd we met in person here in West Block in the cabinet room. The Prime Minister, the leader of the official opposition, the leader of the New Democratic Party, the leader of the Bloc Québécois, all of us together to say we are Team Canada. We've met since then a number of times. The last time was February 2nd on a conference call. I was already on my way to Washington by train, and I said to my colleagues, the Prime Minister, the leader of the official opposition, the leader of the NDP, the chef de Bloc Québécois, the message I'm taking to Washington, I want to make sure it's a message that comes from all of us. What is the message that I'm taking on behalf of Team Canada? The message was clear. Tell them we are united. We will not back down. It's important. It's part of our ability as a country to stare down the increasingly erratic, unhinged threats from Donald Trump. But now we're on the verge of an election. We can already see how the tone changes. We're already seeing the Liberal attack ads against the Conservative attack ads against the Liberals. How do we stand firm as Team Canada and say we're united? The premiers, all federal parties, united. My fear as we go into this next election, which we think will happen very soon, is that unless we sit down and meet with each other, and I mean all party leaders meet together soon, the election campaign opens up two big risks for Canada. One is that divisions that will emerge in the cut and thrust of a partisan elbows out against each other showdown will open up possibilities for Trump and his henchmen in the chaos and uncertainty they are creating to use the tactic of divide and conquer, to hurt Canada by using Poilievre's words against Canada or using Carney's words against Canada. How do we stand united in an election campaign? This is where the call for leadership is right now, not who is best able down the road after an election to defend Canada from unfair, retaliatory trade actions or worse from the United States. We're in that fight now. It's not a future threat. It's now. So how do we continue to stand firm as Team Canada going into an election? This is where the call for leadership. Canadians want to see real leadership. And that's why Greens are standing up now and saying, we can do this, but not if we engage in a conventional, hyper-partisan election campaign. We can do this if we meet right now. I'm directly calling to the new leader of the Liberal Party, Mark Carney, and to the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, as well, of course, as my colleagues in the Bloc and the NDP, that we sit down together and review the options for staying firmly Team Canada while in an election campaign. Now, there may be other options, but the one that has historical reference points, the one that could work, and that Mark Carney must put in place before he names his own Liberal cabinet, is to bring together what would, in historical terms, be called a war cabinet, an inner cabinet that focuses on one thing only: how to protect ourselves, how to protect Canadian sovereignty, protect Canada's economy from the threat from the United States. To have legitimacy, that inner cabinet must include members of all parties. That's the historical reality of when Mackenzie King created a war cabinet in the Second World War, Winston Churchill had a war cabinet in the Second World War. To have legitimacy, to be able to take steps that are necessary, it has to include cross-party cooperation on the very limited set of things that Canadians want to see us continue to do as a government to protect our country. On doit faire les choses qui n'est pas déjà fait, jamais. On doit faire les choses différentes pour protéger notre économie et notre souveraineté, avec un effort collaboratif entre tous les partis, avec la coopération de tous les chefs. This is different from other election campaigns. And if we wage this as if we're in a conventional election campaign, the risks are enormous. One, the one I mentioned, opening up differences that Trump can exploit in a divide and conquer strategy. Another risk, Madam Justice Hogue already identified the single greatest threat to our next election and democracy in Canada, is disinformation coming from social media platforms, such as those controlled by Trump's billionaire oligarch friends, like Mr. Musk, Mr. Zuckerberg. The other risk is that the convention in Canada is that when you're in an election campaign, the government that remains, a cabinet government, can only operate as a quote-unquote caretaker government. How does a caretaker government respond to something that we don't know about today, but may be occurring in 3 weeks' time? Think of how much damage Trump has done. He was inaugurated January 20th. We've been getting whiplash from his tariff today, maybe no tariff tomorrow. We need to have a government that remains solid. Team Canada that can say to Donald Trump, go pound sand or go suck eggs. Although, as I said, I now realize there's a tariff on sand and they may not be able to afford eggs. Point is, Canadians need to be able to see leadership from their leaders, that we can stand united as Team Canada, that we can proclaim that we will not ever back down, and we will give Trump and his henchmen no ammunition to use against Canada by allowing any large differences to open up, to create his ability to, as we know he has done, divide and conquer. We need to do this. I call on Mark Carney specifically and Pierre Poilievre specifically. We have written to ask to meet with you, as all leaders should meet. We have an opportunity. It's time limited. If the writ drops without an agreement to have a way forward, it may not be a war cabinet. Maybe there's a better idea. We won't know about it until we sit down and talk with each other. Canadians want to see leadership from their leaders. They want to know that we're more committed to our country than to our party. So every single day, from now till the election is over, whenever that may be, I want to know that Mark Carney wakes up, Pierre Poilievre wakes up, Jagmeet Singh wakes up, François Blanchet, it's a little more difficult for him, his nation, Quebec, every single day wake up and say, country first, party second. Country first, party second. If we don't do that, we may find ourselves in a much weaker position to confront the threat that Donald Trump represents. With that, est-ce qu'il y a des questions pour mon collègue ou moi? We're open for any questions you may have.
Yeah, Ms. May, David Batchelor from the Canadian Press. Have you gotten any assurance from the Carney camp or from Trudeau before he left office that the briefings with the opposition leaders on the U.S. situation would continue into the Carney administration?
No. I have to say it was extraordinarily, I have to say, inspiring. I've shared with many of my constituents in open community meetings. And when I tell people, generally speaking, or media, that we've been meeting regularly, that we share briefings, and that we pledge to each other Team Canada. Canadians want to see more of that, and it will be a tremendous loss for us as an economy and as a sovereign nation to abandon that for the cut and thrust of a conventional election campaign. We are in an election imminently, and that's appropriate. Canadians want an election, but I don't think anyone wants to see us attacking each other in a way that opens up an opportunity for Donald Trump to take the upper hand. We are strong when we are united. This is a really challenging moment, and we have a very short window in which to make the difference between a conventional election and one that maintains Team Canada as its center. And that opportunity, I'm afraid, will disappear once Mark Carney swears in his new cabinet. If it's all Liberals, that's the end of any idea that we can go into an election as Team Canada.
How confident are you that that could happen, given how polarized the Parliament has been in the last number of months, and especially the Conservatives seem unwilling to work with the other parties on issues like this? We saw just in that meeting you had with Poilievre, Singh, and Trudeau when the tariff situation first really started to kick off. The consensus was Pierre Poilievre was still just sticking to the Conservative talking points and not seeming really willing to have a real dialogue with the other leaders. So how realistic do you think this even is?
I think it's realistic because the fact we continued to have those meetings up to and including February 2nd, that I was able to ask leaders of all the other parties, is this my message going to Washington? I don't want to go to Washington and freelance as co-leader of the Green Party and throw other ideas out there. I want to know, when I talk to staffers of Republican congresspeople, or Democrats for that matter, I want to know that I'm carrying a message from all of us. I think that's extraordinary that all of them in the room, it was a virtual meeting on audio only, but we were all together in the virtual space. And that was a unified message of Team Canada. I also take heart from the fact, if we think of it, that the Standing Committee on Foreign Interference in Democratic Institutions was made up of members of all parties, that they were able to work with top secret security clearance together to issue a report, which has now been reviewed thoroughly by Madam Justice Hogue. We now know, and again, that was part of her report, Mark Carney should, or she didn't know the name, whoever the next Liberal leader is should get top secret security clearance as quickly as possible. So should Mr. Poilievre. Time's up for pretending there's some reason not to ask for top secret security clearance. Make it clear to Canadians there's nothing that amounts to conflicted loyalties on his part. But that core of a committee could be the starting point. It's realistic because it's necessary. We are in unprecedented times. The threat Donald Trump represents is real. I think how many journalists have pointed to how extraordinary it is that Prime Minister of the Right Honorable Justin Trudeau would say they want to destroy our economy so they can annex us. How extraordinary is it, and I quoted this when I was at a press conference at the United Nations the other day on the threat of nuclear war, quoted Andrew Coyne from March 1st in the Globe and Mail. The United States, quote unquote, has given the nuclear codes to a madman. I think we'd all agree that Andrew Coyne's a thoughtful and known to be a conservative voice in the political spectrum. It is no longer extreme to point out that Donald Trump represents a threat to Canada and to the world, to stability within NATO. I mean, Denmark is a NATO ally, and Trump is saying in a speech to the U.S. Congress, one way or another, we're going to get Greenland. Reminds me of his attitude towards women. He's a serial misogynist, sexual abuser, rapist. He's in the White House. What does he want to do? Take Greenland out to buy expensive furniture? Take Greenland into the dressing room? I'm sorry, every time I hear Trump saying he's going to get something one way or another of another sovereign nation, in my head I'm hearing, yeah, I just grab him by the... We have to be prepared, and we have to be united as a country across party lines, and that requires more than what's been proposed up till this morning when Greens are saying, we want to meet with you, all of us together, can figure something out. It may not be a war cabinet. Maybe there's a better idea. But without an agreement with all party leaders that we are Team Canada, that we do not allow divisions between us in a political campaign to create opportunities for Elon Musk, for Donald Trump, for their disinformation machine to divide Canadians. I wouldn't put it past Trump at all. I mean, we've seen Musk interfere in the German elections to support neo-Nazis. Okay. What's to say that Trump and Musk's ideas, well, let's just get some rage farming going and see if we can get a segment of Canadian society that likes the idea of a 51st state. So we can get divisions within the country, get people clamoring. Maybe. I think right now the unity in this country is so inspiring. We are, as a country, my constituency office can't keep up with the demand for flags. We have elder statesmen banding together, whether Jean Chrétien, Stephen Harper, Jean Charest. We heard Paul Martin. The call on all of us to celebrate Flag Day was from former political leaders across the political spectrum. These are not normal times. We have to cooperate. We have to stay Team Canada at some level going into the next election, or we will lose ground in the fight that we're in, and this is the fight of our lives for Canada.
And on just a slightly different note, you're a strong advocate for the rules of this House. A lot of noise has been made in recent weeks about Mark Carney and potential conflicts of interest, just with his Brookfield connections. His campaign has said that he's put his business interests into a blind trust for his time in public office, and with the disclosure rules, he is following the letter of the law right now. Do you think there should be any change, just since as Michael Barrett has said in his numerous press conferences on the issue, when those rules were written, they weren't designed for a situation like this where someone with extensive business ties becomes prime minister without facing a general election first?
I think, thank you, David. I think it's critical that leaders of political parties remove any suggestion that they have conflicted loyalties. That's why Pierre Poilievre must ask for top secret security clearance and remove that cloud based on what's already in the public domain, that his Conservative Party leadership race, there's certainly intelligence that suggests foreign interference from the government of India. So I would say Mark Carney should get top secret security clearance if he can as quickly as possible. Pierre Poilievre should get top secret security clearance. And I would say where we need to fortify our ethics rules in this country is that when we swear an oath of office, and we swear that oath as members of Parliament, it's an anachronism. We swear to His Majesty King Charles III. I swore to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. But that's in right of Canada. We're swearing an oath of allegiance to Canada. That oath to Canada, in the context of foreign interference, that oath should have consequences. And if someone's found to have allowed themselves to develop conflicted loyalties, there have to be consequences. And right now there aren't. So I would fortify the oath of office as a critical way of maintaining that members of Parliament have one loyalty, and that's to Canada. And again, during an election campaign, country first, party second. We're not used to that. We've never had to do it before, but we have to do it now.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci. C'est ce qui conclut la conférence de presse.
Recording stopped.